Hello, I'm over here today because we're talking about hero loadouts. I'm also going to remove the code Mista, which you should use at your checkout, but it is not going to be needed for the rest of the video. So, I want to answer a question that I've been asked quite a bit in the past, but as of recording this, we are recording this during the Blockbuster quest line where we have Scurvy Shoals and the Yar quest line going on. This is relevant because Subwafers and Coconuts slash the Dinos tend to come out around the hit the road time where we have those heroes available. So I haven't personally been asked this question in a while, but every time this question comes up, it's usually around that event and it comes up a lot. And people ask me something that I've always thought was trivial, but today I wanted to talk about it, and that is, which is better, Coconuts versus Wafers? Now, I'm going to spoil it right away and just say that it honestly depends and neither is better. But hey, don't click away right away. Let's talk about why it depends and what it depends on. I'm going to start with Blast from the Past, which is my personal favorite team perk, and I'm not coming at this from a biased perspective. I have gone through the ins and outs of both, but let's talk about both of these team perks and why this is relevant. So, first and foremost, for the noobs out there who might not know, Blast from the Past and Totally Rockin' Out are pretty commonly regarded as like the two options when it comes to this game, unless you're running like an ability-based loadout where Happy Holidays is super nice. If you're running anything that's not reliant on abilities, it's typically TRO, Totally Rockin' Out, or Blast from the Past. So that's just, how it's typed, because Blast from the Past, if I had a nickel for every time I typed that in my comments. Now, Blast from the Past triples your overall health. It removes your shield, then triples your health. It's, it's increasing it by 200%. So, it's an annoying way to phrase that. Like, if you had 100,000 health, adding 200% of 100,000 brings you up to 300,000. That's only to say that you are going to have a lot of health with Blast from the Past, and as of recording this, there is currently a hero rework going on behind the scenes. These changes are not announced or probably even known by the developers at this point because it's a big, mind-bending topic, but as of recording this, I'll pin a comment if this changes or becomes more relevant. Coconuts is pretty much the only thing in the game that can heal you fast enough to keep up with this. Now, there are exceptions to this, and I'll bring this up just for the purpose of covering all the ground, but healing pads, for example. If you put, like, supercharged healing pads with, quintuple healing amount on the ground, this gives me about 400,000 health, which is a lot. But I don't really want to count traps because we're talking about hero loadouts, and what I'm talking about here is there are ways to heal you, such as like Survivalist Jonesy is pretty much the most popular one. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find him in a reasonable amount of time here, but Survivalist Jonesy just gives you 39 base health over 3 seconds, which is not a lot. It's like 100,000 or something, and as you can see, I have over 946,000 health with Blast in the Past, and Survivalist Jonesy is just not going to cut it. And there are various other healers. This isn't really relevant to an AR build, but Monster Smash heals you with melee strikes, and there's not really a lot that goes into it. However, Coconuts from Crossbones Barrett gives you about a third of your health instantly, just straight up. That's like 300,000 plus health if you have 900,000 health, and it heals you over about a 20 to 30 second period. I've never actually technically timed it because it doesn't really matter. You eat the coconut and then you're going to heal for a bit afterwards, and while you're healing for that brief period, I think it's about 30 seconds, Crossbones Barrett will give you a 16% damage buff. So you're getting health, healing over time, and damage from Coconuts. This is actually why I believe that Coconuts is the best support perk in the entire game. It's my wholehearted, honest opinion that you could throw Coconuts into any loadout and just instantly improve it. It buffs your ability damage, it buffs, like your shockwave or whatever, your Teddy build. In fact, the loadout I just showed, I don't know if I'm running Coconuts, I am, it just buffs your damage by 16% and heals you. It's super, super convenient. However, if you're not running Blast from the Past, take this Totally Rockin' Out build, for example, you're only going to be getting like 130,000 health from that coconut, which is not nearly as significant, and there are other reasons why you might want to consider Subwafers. I also want to bring something else up. This might not be relevant to everybody. I am going to be recording this video under the assumption that everybody's got everything, but if you go into the collection book looking for the people that give you the bonuses, I can't find them Full transparency, I was going to record the collection book bit as a plus sign in the coconuts pile, but I'm actually happy to announce that I didn't even know this. You can recycle all of these heroes without recruitment vouchers, which is actually quite convenient, meaning that you can build a totally rocking out build without hero recruitment vouchers, unless, of course, you actually want the team perk, which comes from Dennis Jr. This, obviously, as I just said, applies to, if I can find it, because I just closed it for some reason. If you go to the pirate section of the collection book, you can go down and grab the coconuts guy for this. This didn't always used to be true. In fact, Crossbones Barrett is actually a recruitment recommendation in my hero vouchers video. That is old news now. You can get him very, very cheaply, or at least, without the vouchers. Now, let me put a cap on coconuts. So the pros in the coconut column, say that 3 times fast, is you get a lot of healing over time, damage with Blast from the Past, and it's a really well-balanced team perk that really, really benefits from coconuts. Now, Totally Rockin' Out is not my personal favorite, but I will not deny that this is the highest damage output team perk in the entire game. Upping your crit rating by not 160%. That is not what crit rating is. Crit rating and crit chance are different. I'll probably show the graph. You can check it down in the description below. It's an old Reddit post, but it's really it's a mind breaker to even calculate this. Generally speaking, with like a normal 38% chance to crit, I think at peak, Totally Rocking Out effectiveness, you're going to have like an 80-something% crit chance. That's kind of tricky, but hey, we got some editing notes. Let's do some math. So I made this graph for you guys, actually, to show you that basically at the Totally Rockin' Out peak effectiveness, I counted the pixels to say that it's about the 160 crit chance that it adds, is roughly a 57% crit chance bonus, as you can see. Looking at the chart that is linked in the description down below, that's what I found this graph from on this old Reddit post. They provided the graph. If you add the 30 crit rating that you get by making a regular crit build on a weapon to the 160 you get from Totally Rockin' Out, you're only adding about a 59.5% chance to crit. So if you're adding your plus 59.5 from your crit rating perk and peak Totally Rockin' Out, assuming you're using a normal standard build, now you can add in, this is the conversion to crit chance, by the way, now you can add in the average 10% is what most weapons have, brings you to a nice chance to crit. If you're using something like a Silent Spectre, you just add 59.5 to 20, and I think that's where I got the 80%. That's times, dude, I'm so tired. I think that's where I got the 80% that I was talking about in the video, but, that's all the science behind it, because crit rating and crit chance just can't be the same thing and has to be a complicated subject. It's also why I have Tactical Assault Sledgehammer in the lead, because he's buffing your crit damage. I've done the math. Him and Assault Rescue Trooper Ramirez here are very, very similar. They are within 5% DPS normally. I prefer Ramirez for overall, just buffing all of my damage rather than just my crits. But when your crit rating is as high as it is, Sledgehammer is your boy. He is definitely the way to go. And just as a freebie comment, if you're looking to be running this with shotguns, you want Buckshot Raptor in the lead for sure, just because he is hugely better than Shrapnel Headhunter with the Totally Rockin' Out team perk. Without it, it doesn't really matter. But my point is, with Totally Rockin' Out, you want to activate this in some way, and Sub Wafers is a fantastic way to do that. So, if you harvest metal, you'll have a 32% chance to get a Sub Wafer, and when you eat it, it'll increase your damage and attack speed by a lot for a very brief amount of time. I think outside of the Totally Rockin' Out team perk, this isn't the most useful thing. An 8-second buff is not a huge buff. I have seen people use this on like the Storm King's Horn, for example. That can be nice, but that's pretty niche and not super usable in a regular mission. More often than not, you want to be using that to activate your ability and then, say, get like 10 kills or something, and then let Breakbeat Wildcat continue on. This is just sort of a mirror build. I tried to make these loadouts as similar as possible while swapping up with the team perk, but you do have quite a lot of options here, at least a couple more. You got Fumble, which can be kind of nice if you want to just eat it with a football, but bringing down the house works as well. This is not a Totally Rockin' Out guide. This is why Sub Wafers might actually be good, and that is that it activates Totally Rockin' Out. So I do say that in a Totally Rockin' Out build, it's a little redundant to have coconuts, because like I said, it's not healing you for a ton because your health is like a third of what it was, and you actually do get health. You see that it heals 73.75 base health from the Sub Wafer. That's not a lot, but you will be getting, a little bit of a health bonus from those Sub Wafers, similar to the coconuts, and you'll be getting a huge damage buff from the Totally Rockin' Out, way more than the 16% of coconuts. So the short answer is what I should have said in the beginning, and that's that if you're using Totally Rockin' Out, use Wafers. If you're using Blast from the Past, use coconuts. That's why I've always thought that this was sort of a trivial question, but there are definitely pros and cons for both, and Sub Wafers are kind of tricky. They're dependent on, what you're using, and you gotta be a little smart to use them, I think, in in my opinion, because the bonus is so short that you really gotta, you know, farm them up and use them at the correct times. But if you know what you're doing, sub wafers are definitely a good replacement for coconuts. Now, if you want to be an absolute sweat and maybe, you know, acknowledging the fact that with Totally Rocking Out, you are losing prehistoric Iza, you are not getting that 33 armor, you are losing a ton of health just to have more damage output. Maybe you might want to run coconuts as well, but then again, you'd be having sub wafers and coconuts in your hotbar, so you would be using no Baron, and you'd have to use one primary weapon, which you might not prefer. So depending on your playstyle, this loadout can change essentially however you want. But the crux of it is that sub wafers if you're using Totally Rockin' Out, and coconuts if you're using Blast from the Past. So sorry if this was a little rambly. I just like to provide as much information as possible. If you guys enjoyed this video, you know, feel free to use code Mista at your checkout. I really do appreciate it. Subscribe for more. Comment down below if you guys want to see any more comparisons like this. Check out the Twitch link down below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. And then